Ladies and gentlemen, coming to you from the capital of the Midwest Coast, Chicago, Illinois, USA. This is Scott Pollack, Chief Editor of the Critical Post Chicago reporting. Welcome to another edition of the Critical Post Chicago Report. Thanks again for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. We appreciate it. As part of the continuing series, started this last Sunday on the 11th of September, on the anniversary of the September 11th attacks, the continuing series of the Goldwater Report, denoting an investigation into what our legal reality is. This Critical Post Chicago report is being extended to provide some of the background information we've been watching for the last couple of months. Here's the latest from the Church of the Media's culture of shiny objects. The Church of the Media has too many willing, though unwitting, participants which continue to feed their bottom lines derived from advertising. Amidst the ads, whether on TV, radio, or the internet, ads effeminating men. Cartoons using lifestyle situations denoting happiness, advertising drugs developed by big pharmaceutical companies. Car commercials, sleeping aid products, alcohol, sports celebrities as product spokesmen, political action committee ads, getaway vacations, food franchises using false images. The latest 1995 plus shipping and handling household appliances. Gold and silver dealers whose commissions for selling their products range between 20 to 30% above the stated market values. And depending on the channels one watches, like the ones appealing to the younger generations, music concert commercials, advertising products attuned to the younger generation's lifestyle choices. The Church of the Media is in a not-so-sly manner broadcasting a continuous stream of advertised nihilism being instituted through the use of consumerism as a means towards some kind of search for happiness syndrome. Ladies and gentlemen, as some know, the bias of this anchor desk is stated as pro-private property, anti-income tax, which is forfeit to King Washington, D.C., and its sheriff, known as the IRS, and an honorable system of debt-free money is what we advocate. Regarding income tax, you volunteered to be a taxpayer, you just don't know how that came to be, and more on that later in subsequent broadcasts. The other most important bias that we foster as a news company, small though we may be, is one of status. Stated in a question, that would be, What is our status? Let's review what's been witnessed by everyone paying attention to this drivel, including this anchor desk, for the last 60 some odd days from the Church of the Media. Here is the general audit of everything we've all seen. The RNC and DNC conventions. Political statements being made by the candidates for president and scrutinized by the so-called pundit corps of partisan quizzling journalists. Reports coming from the conservative right about Clinton's corrupt practices concerning the Clinton Foundation's seemingly quid pro quo business dealings, along with her evolving email trail scandal. Reports coming from the liberal left about Donald Trump's sexism and racism. These last two items are the spitting contest writ large on the quote-unquote national conversation between the quizzling so-called journalists and the he said, she said, meaningless drivel used as fillers and as an excuse for news reporting. In other words, folks, it's all part of the confusion campaign, as if to say what the journalism corps is concerned with is all that you should be paying attention to, when all it is a conversation of them between themselves, which has nothing to do with the status of the American public. In short, the various political point scoring stemming from partisan opposition research and accusations. Hillary Clinton's physical well-being issues now in the focus. Endless polling data reports on a daily basis, there to suggest which way the popular vote sway is leaning. Continuing reports of the war on terror targeting the Islamic State. Continuing reports related to the war on cops. Continuing reports of murders in every major city and lesser-known city in corporations. Financial journalism hand-wringing about the direction of the daily market swings and the Treasury bond problems in the worldwide bond markets, which all relates to the so-called unsustainability of the current debt structures of the world's governments in the financial markets, otherwise known as the debt growth economic model. Olympic athletes acting in unsavory manners of public behavior. Professional football players refusing to stand for the national anthem. Recent earthquakes in Italy. Recent forest fires in California. Other earthquakes throughout the United States of minor proportion. Recent flooding in Louisiana. Recent hurricane tracking through Florida and the East Coast. Reports dealing with America turning the internet over to a technocracy attached to the United Nations. Sex scandals. Recently, the separation of Clinton's adoptive daughter, Huma Abedin, from her ridiculous husband, Anthony Weiner, because of his ridiculous antics on the internet. Missile launches from Iran and North Korea, as well as a reported underground atomic bomb test by North Korea. Iran and Russia taunting U.S. Navy and U.S. aircraft vehicles. Reports of Turkey cozying up to Russia. Other movements of international proportions of lesser importance. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. 2 months of journalism stated in less than 10 minutes. How much time does the American public waste reading all of this garbage, or watching it on TV, or listening to the conservative commentators on radio? God knows how much productivity is really being wasted here. in this large marketing campaign of continual fear, pornography, and nihilism. Anybody that's participating in this stuff is part of the problem. A story we've been following about Monsanto being acquired by Bayer AG is coming to a head. Monsanto's board of directors has accepted a bid of $128 million, or Federal Reserve notes, per share. Antitrust concerns are stated by various news outlets, Reuters specifically, to be on the table. In my opinion, if the respective lawyers for each corporation thought they couldn't handle the possible antitrust litigations to their favor, the offer to buy the unit by Bayer AG would not be on the table to move forward. The deal is stated to be worth 66 billion United States dollar Federal Reserve notes. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to bring something up on the viewer. I need you to see this. We've shown you a piece of this document before. And I want you to take a look at that. We're going to be referring to this particular document more in the future. What I want you to notice is that this was a statement that was recorded as of 8 years ago. For every month since the time of the leaked document, the accrual of stated interest for the account in the trust of Federal Reserve notes, so-called US dollars, has been in excess of 410 times 10 to the 51st power since that time. And you can see that under the about the fourth or fifth line down. It says US 410 and then all those zeros after it. That's an accrual amount stated quarterly that's now been multiplied 32 times since that point in time, because this is a statement of earnings as of December 1st, 2008. The financial markets are not aware of this trust account document, and if they are, they've not let on they are. Could it be that the amount is so scary they dare not let the federal official reality world, as recorded in the financial press, know that's how much degradation and inflation the Federal Reserve has inflated its supply, so as to finally collapse the confident people and their holdings in the Federal Reserve note. Now that's a possibility. If it is a fact they know, but what won't let on they know, then it is a conspiracy. That conspiracy can't be confirmed or denied by this anchor desk. However, if the trust document is exercising, if the trust account is exercising its power, it is doing so in a number of ways. It's manipulating the bond market by surreptitiously leaking this FRN supply, using proxy government corporations to act as buyers of those bonds, thereby continuing the illusion of demand for the bonds. As well, the Federal Reserve, through its open market operations, have been continuing to short the precious metal markets and the ETFs, which has no relationship to the physical demand markets, thereby keeping the relationship artificially low. Ladies and gentlemen, the trust document from which this graphic is derived has another 393 banks throughout the world that participate in the SWIFT banking system. The BRICS banking system was conceived to challenge the SWIFT system, making the world a multipolar central banking authority market and competition. This includes Wells Fargo. As we've seen recently concerning the revelations regarding Wells Fargo's fraud activities, nothing of any consequence has really occurred except a financial press slap on the wrist, also by the Judicial Department. Everyone in the financial markets have become very tolerant of such behavior. It's just business as usual. It's no big deal. The bank officer heading the unit who perpetrated the fraud of swelling the balance sheets by using false credit extensions having been extended to fictitious identities, this woman received a golden parachute of $125 million. Wells Fargo was fined $185 million, making the criminal activity just another cost of doing business rather than shutting the facility down. No one is asking why the bank hasn't been shut down. Apparently, the journalism companies won't buck the system. That's not their job. The reporting of this fraud aligned with the idea that the journalism corporations are doing their jobs well. Nothing could be further from the truth. Where is the Congress of the United States? Where is the Federal Reserve Board? Both are silent on the issue, though the Federal Reserve Board could in fact act responsibly and shut the Wells Fargo Bank facility down. If anyone has read the Federal Reserve Act of 1913 like we have, you'd know it was in the Federal Reserve's purview to do just that. Certainly, the board of directors for Wells Fargo must have known about the fraud. They also know they can get away with it in advance until they're caught. Meanwhile, 5,000 employees were fired by the parent bank. As for the bank's market valuation, it's deemed sufficient by the Federal Reserve Board and the open market in general for Wells Fargo to restate their projections and let the stock find its restated value on the open market rather than dissolve the bank. Be aware, ladies and gentlemen, in view of all that, again we state that the coin and precious metal dealers marketing physical gold and silver on TV and the internet are selling their products, as stated before, at a commission rate that's between 20 and 30% over retail. So if you buy something today, you may not see a return on investment for better than a few many years into the future. However, considering the staggering numbers you've just seen, would it be fair to consider that the Federal Reserve's open market buying desk can play this game as long as they want? And why that is so is because the Western Coalition banking system will not let FRNs falter. FRNs meaning Federal Reserve notes. If they do, their fortunes would be wiped out, along with everybody in the United States who's in the market with their 401ks and IRAs and all of these other vehicles of quote-unquote values. The people in the financial press have no idea this trust exists. That's why they are making all their hand-wringing predictions, calling the debt structures in the world unsustainable. Unsustainable, they say. Now, the document that was shown to us was leaked many years ago through a network of over 3,000 individuals, many of whom are financial auditors. They've confirmed this trust document. They know it's real. So this trust is in operation. And one of the people that is part of this consortium of financial auditors is the one who showed it to me. So long as the United States Federal Reserve can find surreptitious means without getting caught, and if they are caught, the press won't say anything about it, by using proxy buyers for bond buying, the debt growth model will continue to spiral upwards no matter what is happening on the ground. There's a new generation of unwitting investors in the latest so-called millennial generation, acting as the aggregate retail market that continues to participate, and they are larger in terms of their numbers than my generation, otherwise known as the baby boom generation. Should the trust so stated be willing in the future to let the whole thing collapse, thereby exposing the fraud of our federal government, Britain's government, along with the other Western Alliance powers in Europe, the amount of the haircut won't mean anything. They'll own most of the precious metals anyways. This trust is why the markets continue to stay buoyant despite all the naysayers' predictions. It's also why no one we're watching as a credible analyst has the complete, accurate picture of the world's financial condition. The opposition in the East with China and Russia wants to create the illusion of gold-backed currencies. That's a total canard. It's meaningless. The following is what I wrote 5 years ago in May of 2011. The title of the article is called "It's a New Kind of World War." Ladies and gentlemen, we are in the midst of World War III, and we stated it before anyone else did. TCP Chicago Opinion, 9 May 2011, at 19:55 hours Central Standard Time. We firmly believe that what is actually being played out in the Middle East and elsewhere, confirmed by reports from the various sources we refer to or directly quote, is the beginning of an undeclared but now firmly in place World War III. This is the new state and face of war. It's the official line from the banks, who are our sponsor of these global politics and the financiers of our wars between all nations. The war is being fought between Eastern-centric world-class government banks and Western-centric world-class government banks, along with their best customers and political henchmen, the governments of their respective cartels. In this war, shipping lanes for oil to the Far East is something to be mindful of, and China's interest in securing that route for oil to include the shipping lanes of the South China Sea and the seas surrounding Japan, hence a rumored artificial island buildup to occur in the future constructed by the Chinese government. Western oil supply is the other side of the coin. All of the world's money is tied up in oil, gold, silver, and microchips, bluntly stated, as well as bonds. The third largest estate is standing armies and their investments in weapons. Eastern banks are holding Western bank liabilities, and the Western banks want to default. But before they do, East and West equally complicit in their designs, albeit they are going to be killing large populations of people, which has been in progress, and they're going to make a lot of money for creating, using, and consuming vast supplies of war materials in the process. And then the Western banks may finally default, and there's nothing the Eastern banks can do about it. Eastern banks will not risk direct confrontation. They have no desire for it. But they are not going to like losing all that money, albeit, though, it's of no consequence to the Westerners or their designs. They've made up their minds already, and at that, long ago. So, the East has been snookered once again by the West, or so it would seem. The confusion campaigns will continue to roll out unabated by the major media corporate conglomerate journalism channels, and especially Western populations will be manipulated into tacitly approving of these operations and in the manner that they are being conducted. There is nothing the citizen populations can do about it. Whether citizens populate these information channels or not is absolutely of no issue. There is plenty of money that will keep the propaganda in place, waiting for readers to return for more consumption from this corrupted world journalism core. The Eastern propaganda channels are never challenged openly by its citizenry for fear of reprisal, as has been the case many times in the past. Along with various maneuvers being witnessed in the world's money markets, it is our firm belief this will continue to escalate. The effects of this undeclared war are less pronounced than in other world wars, so it is muted in comparison, let's say, to World War II. Nonetheless, there is a vast amount of money being spent in the execution of policy by Western interests and their allies, Eastern interests and their allies, which rival the monies spent for the execution of both World War I and World War II combined. The East, as is their practice, will watch for an opening to exploit Western weaknesses. Big money is in control of all of this activity, no matter what the circumstances look like or may dictate in the future. The populations around the globe have absolutely no say in what shall be the outcome or a say in its direction. The powers at the helm are playing a game of high-stakes chicken because that's what they want to do. It's all about squeezing as much wealth from the world's populations as they can get. In order to do that, it takes the squeezing of governments and their tax bases. That's where the big money is. In short, it's New York, Chicago, London, Paris, Berlin against Beijing, Moscow. Political strife and campaigns in the press to confound electorates are the tools at large employed to imply population consent. Silence is consent. That is all. Again, that opinion was written on the 9th of May, 2011. We'll be coming up with more of the research very shortly. This is the physical statement in terms of what is relevant in terms of the backdrop. This is Scott Pollack, Chief Editor of the Critical Post Chicago, reporting. Again, thanks for watching another edition of the Critical Post Chicago Report. I'll be back soon with more. That is all.